Thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm going to walk around a little bit as I talk because I'm a little bit nervous, so please bear with me. So I'm going to go backwards, kind of like an origin story for a superhero. We'll start with the Inclusive Innovation Incubator, which is an 8,000 square foot co-working training facility that was recently opened on Georgia Avenue with an intentional focus on diversity and inclusion and entrepreneurs that create products and services for diverse and underrepresented communities. So this is where my origin story begins. That picture right there is me. I am in 6th grade. That is a Commodore PET. That was a computer that was about this big. That is what I used to learn programming when I was in 6th grade. I taught myself. The way I got into programming was, I don't know if you can tell by that, but I was 5'4", maybe 50 pounds if I was lucky, and I wore bifocals. I don't have them on now. And so during lunchtime, I would go outside, and frequently, it did not end well. So I decided that I would just stop going outside during lunchtime. And so I went to the library, and in the library in the corner was this box. And that box sat there for about 2 weeks. And then finally one day I said to the librarian, "What's in that box?" And they said, "It's a computer." And I said, "Can I open it?" They said, "Sure." They don't know what to do with it. So I opened up the box and I started to teach myself programming. I won a science fair that year from writing an application. And to me at that point, because that was about 1979, so it was a long time ago. And computers weren't everywhere like they are today. So programming was just a hobby to me. I never thought of it as anything more than that. Fast forward, computers turned out to be more than a hobby. Society realized that technology was a great thing and that you could do a lot of amazing things with it. I had a career as a software developer at a lot of different companies, but eventually my goal was to create my own company, and I did create my own company called Clearly Innovative. The interesting thing I found when I created my company, which is what I found through my whole career, was that there were not a lot of people that looked like me that wrote software. There were not a lot of people that looked like me that were involved at all in technology. And a lot of my jobs prior to starting Clearly Innovative, I was usually the only person of color in the room. So when I started Clearly Innovative, it was essential to me that I had an impact on the lack of diversity in tech and inclusion. Lack of diversity in the tech ecosystem. So Clearly Innovative, as the title says, we hired individuals with non-traditional backgrounds. So we took people who were passionate about software development and technology, but did not necessarily have a computer science degree, but wanted to learn how to write software. We hired them, paid them a salary, and trained them to be software developers. So we were kind of generating our own diverse tech ecosystem out of Clearly Innovative. Most individuals would stay for about 2 or 3 years, and then they would move on. The interesting thing, since we're here talking about wealth, is that we would hire individuals, train them, and they would leave and their salaries would double. So we were building individuals, we were helping create and support families for folks, because right now, at least in the DC area, to hire a software developer, a decent software developer, they're getting paid $80,000, $90,000, a good software developer. We were bringing people in that had never coded before, and within 2 years, they were getting jobs paying $90,000 a year. We felt that we were having an impact and we were making a change. Another thing that happened along the way with creating my company was I felt that writing software had been very good to me. I was able to raise a family, go to business school, travel, work on tons of different and exciting projects. I got to work on the first ToysRUs.com, the first NikeStore.com, DisneyStore.com. I traveled to Europe to work on MarksandSpencer.com, all from opening up a box in a corner of a library and learning how to code. It was a good thing that technology had gotten to be everywhere in the world, because it allowed me to travel a lot of different places in the world. But I also thought back to the time when I was a child and the opportunities that I had, and often a lot of other kids don't have those opportunities. This is a photo of us having a pitch competition with middle school kids at Howard University Middle School for Math and Science. When I was running Clearly Innovative Inc., we had the opportunity to substitute one day for a teacher who was sick and they needed someone to fill in. So I went in and I spoke to the kids. the kids were very excited by what I had to say. So fortunately and unfortunately, well, the unfortunate part was that the teacher fell ill and never came back that semester. The fortunate thing was that they asked us to come back. So my small company at that point of only 8 people and myself, we volunteered for the rest of the semester and created a STEM and entrepreneurship program, which at that time we called Startup Middle School. Startup Middle School was so successful that we did it for 2 years, volunteering for 2 years at Howard University Middle School in Math and Science to run this program. Eventually, we were asked to run a summer camp. It was through running that summer camp that we realized, hey, maybe we have something here. And that's where the brand Luma Lab appeared from. Also, because of the brand of Luma Lab and we started to get some traction, we were lucky enough to win a $100,000 grant from Mission Main Street. That $100,000 grant kind of was a game changer because at that point we were like, well, there's clearly something to this education thing, but I still have this web and mobile development firm. How am I going to do all of this? At that point, we were still only about 12 people. So what we decided to do was we said, well, there's clearly a reason why we won, and there's clearly a need for this. So let's create this brand Luma Lab, and let's try to go bigger. We had already worked with middle school and high school kids. We wanted to try to move kind of in the workforce development space, kind of go upstream, disconnected youth, and try to do some adult training. So with the $100,000 and just my technology background, I said, well, how can we find some space to start to do something positive with the community to continue doing what we're doing? So we started looking for space in DC. But while we were looking for space in DC, this happened. A RFP was put on the street to run an 8,000 square foot space on Georgia Avenue that was focused on diversity and inclusion. DC is a small city. This was the mayor's project and Howard's project, and we knew that if we tried to go this way and do something very similar to what they're trying to do and they go that way, that it was going to be a challenge for us. So with our small team of folks, we submitted an application. We responded, and eventually we were chosen to run what is now called N3. This was March, almost a year and a half ago, when we were sticking shovels into a pot of dirt, and everyone was all excited about what the future would hold. For those of you who have not had the pleasure to work with a state and local government, and a university, once again, remember with a company that was still only about 10 folks, that was a software development company who had kind of morphed into a little bit of an education company. This was clearly a challenge. I had a aha moment one day when, and there's some people in the room that kind of went through part of that journey with me. I had an aha moment one day of like, why the hell am I doing this? You know, you get beat down, you get run down, you get frustrated, and you just feel like no matter what you're doing, there's just some other obstacle that always appears in front of you. But during that same time, I had that aha moment of, what the hell, what was all the other things I've been doing in my life leading towards, right? I started programming when I was young and I taught myself. I hired other folks and I taught them how to do it. I worked with kids to teach them about STEM and entrepreneurship. So maybe this is what it was all leading towards, helping others see the opportunity that was there because maybe they didn't have anyone else to show them. This was a pretty big space, and walking into it, it looked like it was going to be a pretty big effort. About 3 weeks ago, oh, I missed this slide. In between, before we opened, clearly things became challenging financially for us. You have a web and mobile development firm that's, like I said, about 10 to 12 folks. We're also trying to figure out how to navigate working with state and local government. We're trying to figure out how to keep Luma Labs running. We're trying to figure out how to play nice with Howard University. It was straining on our finances because I was basically running Luma Lab, clearly innovative, and still trying to get N3 up and running. But this was a blessing. We had, around the same time we submitted the RFP, we responded to building a web and mobile solution for the African American History Museum, and our company won. The reason why this is critical is two things. One, they paid us a decent amount of money to do it. And clearly we needed it to sustain us on our journey. But the more critical part was that we live in a society where folks think that people of color just don't really fit in the tech ecosystem. You look at the tech ecosystem as it exists today, and it's clear why some people might question that. For us to be successful, to win this project, to launch the solution, and to get rave reviews about it, will always be an indicator that we can do these things, and we should not be doubted. It was a team of 3 folks that built this solution. One of the folks on the team was my daughter. My daughter only started writing software a year ago. She started my company with me 10 years ago as my admin. No computer science degree. This illusion that you need to go through all this schooling and all this education to be successful in the tech ecosystem is a joke. And that is proof of it. But the money really helped a lot also. This is what the space looks like now. We are thankful to Howard University, the mayor's office, Wingate Hughes for designing this wonderful space for us. And now we are open. And the challenge begins once again. It's a business. We need to get folks in the space. We need to be able to focus on a community that I will honestly say has been ignored somewhat in the past. We need to identify programming and provide support and infrastructure for them at a price point that can meet their needs, but still can sustain the business that we're attempting to run. We need to hire the appropriate staff to help us be successful and provide those services. Remember, we're still a small company that started out with a couple of people writing code. These are all challenges, but we believe that we can be successful with folks in the community who want to see us be successful, folks in the room who are clearly passionate about these type of things. And as one guy I work with says to me, Aaron, you don't need employees right now, you need disciples. We need people who share the vision and will walk through whatever comes in front of them to help us be successful at what we're doing. I am thankful that I have had a lot of disciples that have followed me this far because this was one hell of a ride. I'm thankful for my wife who stood with me through all of this because it's an extreme challenge. I have 5 kids? Yeah, 5. Right? I have 2 little kids. I'm running almost 3 companies. It is a challenge, and all the folks who have stayed with me getting probably paid less than they can get paid in this ecosystem, but they still believe in what we're trying to do. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to jump through some things quickly. A couple of the kids that were in that earlier slide with us, this is 5 years later, they've come back and they intern with us at Clearly Innovative. I met a kid who I taught at Howard one day. I didn't even recognize the kid. He's now in ROTC, and he's studying cybersecurity. He was in the business school studying something else. I taught a class in there. He said it motivated him to look into technology where he'd never done it before. I'm getting a coffee at the Starbucks on Georgia Avenue. I did not even recognize this kid, and he walked up to me, shook my hand, and he said, thank you. And I said, what's your name again? And then he told me, he said, look, I took your class, and I got motivated and excited. I started to look into technology, and I decided I wanted to go into cybersecurity now. It's little things like that that help you get past the bad days and help you when you wake up and you're like, what the hell am I doing? And you decide to continue doing it. I'm thankful for those moments. I'm thankful for the folks that remember those moments. And I'm thankful for that individual to just walk up to me and shake my hand and say thank you. We went to South by Southwest this year, and the mayor announced in 3. We finally started to get some press. Folks started to get excited, and people started to kind of, come around and help us, start to ask questions, what can we do to make this happen? There have been a lot of people who sat on the sidelines not ready to jump in the pool. I completely understand that. I'm learning the ecosystem of politics now, which is interesting. But if this is what I need to do to get to my final goal, then I'm going to figure it out. 2 weeks ago, we had what we called In 3 Wow. I wanted to call it Week of Fun. The woman who worked with me said that doesn't make sense, so we called it Week of Welcome. It was a week-long program where we had 37 different partners who came in and ran free programming inside of the space, from design thinking for youth to design thinking for adults. We ran a Unity programming class in there. We had lawyers in there. We had PR people in there. Everything was free for folks in the community to kind of come in, take this programming, and kind of meet each other and try to build a dense ecosystem of diverse entrepreneurs here in DC. It was a success. On Thursday, the mayor came through, shook hands, kissed babies, did all the things that she's supposed to do. But the important thing was that by being there, hopefully she indicated to others in the community that she is committed to this, that we are committed to this, and hopefully indirectly asking others to be committed to what we're doing also. It's 8,000 square feet of space, 10 offices, 4 classrooms, 55 co-working desks, conference rooms, private booths, and event space. We ask for people to consider coming to our space. We ask for people to consider hosting events in the space because we need the dollars to keep our prices low enough to support the community that we're trying to support. We need sponsors to underwrite what we're doing there to support the community that we're trying to support. And we need to demonstrate that DC is a city that cares about those individuals and want to provide products and services to help those individuals be successful on their path. And since I've used the path, I'll throw it in, the pathways to inclusion. The mayor put out a report in November of last year talking about the pathways inclusion, ways to help other folks in the community kind of ride the wave of success and prosperity that we see happening here in DC. In3 is part of that. I believe on pages between 13, 14, and 15, they reference multiple things that we are doing. It specifically references creating a space for diverse entrepreneurs and for folks trying to create products and services for diverse ecosystems. That is who we are, and that's what we want to be to this city. So, our tagline is come for the space, stay for the experience. There's folks that go to WeWork and all the other co-working spaces that exist in the community, and we understand that we are a business and we need to compete with them also. And how we want to compete with them is by adding value to our target audience. We want to provide additional products and services to them that creates a sense of community that they can reach out to the folks that are next to them, not to just come in, shut the door, do their work, and then leave again. That's not what we're about. If that is what you're looking for, please stop by and visit us. And thank you very much.